Evening, everybody. Good evening, everybody. Thank you for joining in on this webinar today. The webinar today is actually going to revolve around keeping our children safe online. It's focusing on what parents, what guardians, what caregivers, what anybody that is looking after children should be able to do to make sure that they are all safe when they use electronic devices. So you don't agree with me that electronic devices are what children love to play with, from the little children up until the young adults. Electronic devices like mobile phone, like tablets, like laptops, they use it a lot. But as they use that, I've come here today to also let you know that there are so many risks that are involved in this. That is what we want to discuss today. So I'll proceed with my slide. Okay. Let me just get my slide up. Okay, this is just a little bit about myself. I'm not going to dwell too much on this. I'm a cybersecurity specialist, as well as a digital transformation consultant. So I am also a consultant in my own company with close to 10 years experience in cybersecurity and over 15 years experience in total in the IT industry. So every other thing you see there are some of my accomplishments as well as my educational qualifications. So we move further. Okay. Now, what we want to look at now is an introduction to what we are here to do today. So basically, like I said before, the digital world is now the world of our children these days. So navigating the digital world can actually be a very daunting task for parents and also for the users, that's the teenagers and the children in general. So what we are going to do today is to present a form of guide that will offer practical strategies to keep your family safe and empowered online. So in this session, you're going to discover the importance of digital ground rules, monitoring tools, and open communication to foster that healthy relationship that children needs to have where technology is involved. So before we go deep into this, we need to look at the reality. There are certain statistics that we need to have a look at, and these statistics are going to show us where things actually stand when it comes to online behavior of children when it has to do with the internet, with digital devices. So like I said earlier, and I'm sure all of you would agree with me, that children are actually on this epic online journey that is endless and is so engaging for them, to the point that a lot of times children get so carried away when they use online devices. And recent studies reveal that they spend up to or over 5 hours a day, using online devices. So when you look at this, you think that is actually small, but when you consider 5 hours plus in a day, and when they have to go to school, how long they spend in school, and then homework time, and then actually their rest or sleep time. If you check all this, over 5 hours a day is too much for a child to constantly be on a mobile device. I'm not saying that it's not good for them to use these mobile devices, but some of the things we're going to learn here, they are going to show us how to actually manage the child's usage of mobile devices. So there are some benefits, obviously, quite a lot of benefits of using these mobile devices or these digital devices. But it's crucial for parents and teenagers to work together, to ensure healthy online habits and ensure a safe and responsible digital experience. So as we proceed, you're going to learn a bit more statistics in this. So I had to dig in a little bit to get some, global statistics on the usage of the internet and what exactly are some of the contents that are in high demand or are highly sought after when it comes to children, when it comes to teenagers. So if you look at the top left, you will see that this source is from UNICEF. So basically, the one that tops most in terms of content that are often available or often sought after, if I may use that word, by children or teenagers, you can see there that it's 33% sexual content. So these are contents that are always finding its way into our browsing sessions, into our YouTube sessions, into our Facebook sessions, into virtually everything that we do. There's always one ad or one pop-up or one button somewhere that wants to take you off what you're doing into some of this content. Then other contents that UNICEF found that are affecting children are violent content. So maybe some violent scenes in the movie or any sort of violent content, and that some of all these contents are not actually good for children. So you also have 23% for hate speech. So we can attest to the fact that hate speech is becoming a menace in the society and is creating a lot of problems in the society these days. So we want to keep our children away from hate speech because it doesn't really help anybody. It doesn't help the society. It ends up creating more problems. So you also have self-harm content as well as suicide content. These are all contents that have negative effects. Then another statistics that caught my attention is the one on the bottom right of the screen. That talks about pornography. So basically, we know how pornography, the pornographic industry is one of the biggest industries in the world. One of the most income generating industries in the world. And these contents are usually targeted at everyone using the internet, and most especially these days, children. So a study by Benenson Strategy Group, they found that more than half of teens encountered online pornography accidentally. So what does that tell us? Through some of these ads, unsolicited ads, pop-ups, and all that, as children are using the internet, as they're playing their game, a lot of those apps that they have on their devices actually have in ad. They actually have advertisements that are within the apps. So some of those advertisements are not right. They are not good for children. You can look at the percentages there, and that will tell you a lot. And in here, it says that most of the children they interviewed or they researched on, they found out that most of them actually encounter those pornographic content accidentally. And I will tell you that that is usually done deliberately, so that as you're doing something, it will just pop up, it will just catch your attention, and from there, you might just leave what you were doing initially and you move on. So this is what this webinar session is going to try to propose ways that you as a parent can be able to make sure that your children are safe from some of this online menace. So top concerns for keeping children safe online. So this is from research, and it's these are areas that people look at, and they would actually relate. If you're a parent, and you've had some time to go deep into how to keep your children safe, you realize that these three areas are usually some of the major areas that are of concern. So the first one is inappropriate content. So one of the biggest worries for parents is the risk of children stumbling upon inappropriate or harmful online content. You saw from the previous statistics, how some of these things are stumbled upon accidentally. It's important to keep a watchful eye and use content filtering to protect young minds from slipping. So content filtering is something that we're going to discuss in a couple of minutes from now. And you find out how you can do this, some of the tools that can help do this. So another source of concern is cyberbullying. So cyberbullying is a silent killer in the world today where children are concerned. Is a silent cause of depression where children are concerned. So you need to be aware of cyberbullies who are all over the internet, looking around to create problems, to cause depression, to cause mental depression on children. So the anonymity of the internet can make them feel brave, but won't let them get away with the shenanigans. So what that means is basically because the internet is a big place where anybody can from anywhere they are cause havoc, create issues, and for you to actually lay your hands on them is a very, very difficult task. So people use that anonymity of the internet to create issues. You can fake an identity and use it to bully children online. And at the end of the day, most times little or nothing is done because those people, you can't really lay your hands on who it was that was causing this. So the third concern is privacy. So your children oversharing their personal information online, this is called personally identifiable information, PII. So your children sharing this information online is one of the major concerns that parents have when it has to do with the contents that their children make use of online, or what they're exposed to. So when they overshare information, for example, children that have social media accounts, you as a parent or as a guardian or as a caregiver, you need to understand that you need to let them know that some of those information that they share should actually not be shared. There's a technique that is usually recommended. Whatever that is okay, or mommy or daddy agrees to share outside is what is right to share. But what they do not agree to share outside, you should not share it. So that's a little way of looking at it. Children should be made to understand that not every single information about their home, about themselves, their personal information, none of such, or even pictures, none of it should actually be let out there and unnecessarily. So to keep children safe, we must equip them with very strict privacy settings, which we're going to look at in a few minutes' time. So what parents should know that they don't know? We always have this saying by parents, my children are more tech savvy than I am. I don't even know these things. I don't even know how they get to know these things. This is usually what parents say these days. But, that mindset needs to change, because as you're saying that, the children are getting more and more advanced and you're being left behind. So you don't really know what is actually going on, in your absence. So, but you need to understand that safety is paramount, and you need to be concerned with what your children get up to when you're not monitoring them. So in this area of technology, kids don't play outside anymore. I don't know about you, but these days you barely see kids playing outside. Back in the days when we were younger, we used to play outside, under supervision anyway. But we used to have the opportunity to play outside, play games, run around, do all sorts of stuff. But these days, kids barely do that. We know that there are some obvious reasons, but that social interaction is of children, it's not as it used to be anymore. So these are some of the things that encourage excessive usage of technology by children, which should not actually be the case, especially young, very they are usually called children of index age, like little children, below 10 and all that. They should have the opportunity to interact. So people can pretend to be anyone online. So like I said, when I talked about cyberbullying, someone can pretend to be anybody online, and by doing so, they can achieve some of their malicious intents. So you don't want your children to be stumbling across things that they should not be. So these are some of the things that parents today need to have in mind. So inappropriate content. We as adults, we know what contents that are not appropriate, but children most times do not know unless you educate them, you tell them. So this is what this session is going to try and encourage parents to do. So it's important to keep a watchful eye and use content filtering to protect young minds from slipping. This is very important. That watchful eye. It may not always be convenient for some of us who are working, but we need to find a way. Then that is why you're here, because this session is going to show you how to do these things, how to achieve this, even when you're not physically present with them there. So inappropriate contents can include, sexually explicit material, false or misleading information, violence, extremism, or terrorism, hateful or offensive materials. These are all some of the contents that we consider as inappropriate. There may be others, but these are mostly the predominant ones when it has to do with usage of the internet and what children can be exposed to. Cyberbullying. I talked about it before. We're going to talk quite a lot about it in this session. So cyberbullying, I just had to call them the digital villains, because they are the ones that wreck our children's lives without us knowing what is going on. So as parents, we need to watch out for this. The villains of the digital world are looking around, and they are not up to any good. Children might be experiencing a lot of cyberbullying, but they could actually cover it up, pretend like nothing is happening, because most times the cyberbullies, find a way to leverage the fear these children have, leverage their ability to just believe whatever they are told. And these children will keep these things from us as parents, and we may not actually know what is going on. So cyberbullying can take many forms, like mean messages, embarrassing photos, or harassment in online gaming. These are some of the things that children experience. Like, for example, from their friends in school. I remember back in the days, there are people in school who are what I may call, natural bullies. Those are the ones. Back then, we didn't have mobile phones and internet and all that. So what we experienced then were like physical bullies. But now the bullying has gone beyond physical. It's now digital. So that is what cyberbullying is all about. So as parents, we need to be aware how these things happen. So privacy concerns. So always remember that your children need to guard their secrets. Their secrets range from personal information that is not supposed to be let out there about their family, their personality, their everything that should not be let out there morally should always be guarded. So personal information and data of kids can be used for harmful purposes. A popular or a very common way of misusing children's personal information is through identity theft. So children's identity can be faked, or they can be impersonated and used for some form of a malicious purpose, probably with another child or for something else. So these guys that are doing these things, they go to any extent to achieve what they want to achieve. So stalking, there are stalkers online who use digital devices to stalk children, to lure them in one way or the other, to threaten them, to just make their life miserable, and also to have access to their personal life, to their family information, to personal things. So catfishing is also another way. So catfishing is basically when someone pretends to be someone else online. So it's more like impersonation. So they use fake photos and information to trick others into a relationship or scam them out of money. So this is not, I would say it's not always found in kids, or it doesn't always relate to kids. You can also see that happening with adults as well. So catfishing can also be used for cyberbullying, revenge, or sexual exploitation. So kids today are growing up in a digital world where they can access and share information online with just a few clicks. So while this can be fun and educational, it can also expose them to potential dangers and threats. So without online privacy, kids may reveal too much information about themselves or others that can be used against them by hackers, scammers, predators, and of course, cyberbullies. So these are some of the things that we as parents or a guardian, an uncle, an auntie, as long as you have kids that are under your, supervision, you need to be aware of this. This is actually what's going on in the world today. So we now have to look at some of the solutions. We've talked about the problems. We need to look at some of the solutions. So internet safety tips. You need to find a way to secure your child's online presence. So keep an eye on your child's internet usage by regularly checking their browsing history, app downloads, and online interaction. This helps to stay aware of their online activities and identify any potential risk or concerns. So some parents that are not tech savvy might be wondering, how do I do all this? How do I do all this? I'm going to explain some of the ways, some really easy ways that this can be accomplished using your mobile device. So monitoring can help you prevent or detect potential risks such as cyberbullying, inappropriate content, and the rest of it. So show them how to check the credibility of the people they interact with online by telling them how they can look through people's profile. For those that are using social media, for example, show them that they should not always interact with people without knowing about them, looking through their profile, reading some of the things that they can see to see what this so-called person or friend they have on social media it has been up to. And you agree with me that a lot of people on Facebook, for example, I don't think they are real human beings. Those guys, whoever that they are just there for one malicious purpose or the other. So children have to be educated well enough about this. So monitoring helps you stay aware of your children's online activities and identify the potential risks or concerns. I hope my points are actually well taken as well, because there are a lot of diverse opinions when it comes to all this, but I believe there's there's a thing or two that parents and guardians will always learn from this point. So let's now look at how do you get started with parental controls. So parental controls, these are some of the important things that parents need to learn how to set up so that it can help monitor their kids. So first of all, very important, you need to talk to your children about how to be responsible on the internet. You know, it's you need to make sure that they understand what it means to post the wrong things on the internet, what a cyberbully is, you know, what inappropriate contents are, you know, the sort of things that they should not let out there, you know, private things that should not be let out there, how to know people who are not supposed to be trusted online, how to, you know, stay away from inappropriate content. So by using monitoring applications or monitoring apps, you know, you can accomplish quite a lot of this. So parents can control what devices their child uses, you know, they can check the privacy settings and so many other features. So we want to look at some of these apps so that we can go in depth about what and what they are capable of doing, you know. So we have the Google Family link. I'm sure a lot of parents may be familiar with this, but for those that are not familiar with this is an opportunity to get introduced to a Google Family link. So with Google Family link, parents can control what device the child uses. You know, they can check the privacy settings and actually configure it the way that they want it to be. They can block apps. So if you find out that a couple of apps are not good for your children, you can actually block it. So you can see your child's location, can monitor screen time, which is very important. I'm sure we're going to talk about it shortly. Screen time is very important because that's what determines how long and what your child actually does on their devices. This app can also help you monitor usage. So how long your child uses the phone and what exactly they are doing. You know, it can allow you to lock devices remotely. If there are reasons you feel that will make you lock devices remotely, this app can help you do that. So it can help you set conversation prompt. So what is conversation prompt? You know, most times when these children use these devices, they get so engrossed in it, they do not even know what's going on around them. They don't talk, they don't interact while they're doing that. And at some point, you find out that the devices have taken up their mind, if I may put it that way. So conversation prompts are prompts that you can set that, okay, within so time to so time, this child should actually leave this device and interact with people. So these apps can actually help you with to do that. So you can set that up with this app. So you can control the apps that your child downloads online or with their device. You can set up web filtering. So for children that need to have access to the internet, you know, browse the internet and all that, we can do a very robust setup of what websites that can be accessed through the Google Chrome. We all know that Google Chrome is actually the browser for Google. So this Google Family link is highly optimized for Google Chrome in terms of web filtering, as well as YouTube. So Google Family link can also help you configure exactly what you want your children to do and what you don't want them to do on YouTube, what you want them to watch and all that, you know, and even the kind of search results that they should get on YouTube, what and what they should not search for, what they should search for. So this app helps to do that. So what this app cannot do is that it was found that cannot completely block websites. So kids can still have access to um, unauthorized websites that are not authorized by their parents. Kids can actually have access to it if they are not using Google Chrome. So what are we saying here? What we're trying to say here is encourage them. If you're using Google Family app, for example, Family Link, you should encourage your kids, if possible, don't have any other browser in that device. Have Google Chrome so that you can be able to control what your children are doing on the browser. Earlier, we talked about kids that accidentally come across pornographic content. These are all gotten through browsers. Most times it's through browsers. So if you have a Chrome and you're using Google Family Link, it can help you, eliminate some of those accidental occurrences. So we look at, for those that use Apple devices, because Google Family Link, it works well with, though it works for iOS devices, but it works better. It's an Android platform, so it works much better with Android. So this is mostly for iOS, that's the Apple guys. So Apple Screen Time is their own way of helping parents to monitor and limit how much time used by their kids, determine how long their child can use specific apps or app categories, control who your child can chat with using content filtering. So, we all know that Apple has a lot of, they have their FaceTime, they have some of their chat apps. With this screen time, you can actually control who your child can chat with using some of those apps. So it can also help you restrict App Store purchases and downloads. This is a big problem that children that have access to Apple, some parents have actually run into bills upon bills because of app downloads that their children do without their consent. So this Apple screen time can also help you restrict app purchase from the store. It can also help configure privacy settings. So just like the Google Family Link, it can also configure privacy settings on the Apple device. So you can remotely approve requests from the child to extend screen time, or for communication using some of those apps, or for actually extending the time they are using the apps. So these are some of the things that it can do. So what it cannot do, it doesn't have built-in location settings. Unlike the Google Family Link, which Google using all its power, with the whole Google Map and all that, it has inbuilt location settings. So you can actually know where your child is from your own monitoring device, from anywhere you are. But for this Apple screen time, it does not have it built in. I don't know if they've put that feature now, but as at the time I did this research, they do not have this feature built into the app. So for you to know the child's location, the child actually has to manually turn on their location setting on their phone, which may not really be a good idea. These things have to actually be automatic. So these are some of the flaws in the Apple screen time. So there are other apps. I didn't bother to go so much into them, but if you look at this, you see them, and the costs and all that. One thing I have to point out here is that the Google Family app and the Apple Screen Time, they are majorly free. Most of the functions they have, you can actually get in the free version. But just like every other app, they will always give you the paid one with a bit more functions. So it all depends on which you choose. So these are some of the other apps that exist out there, the costs, and what they can do and all that. I didn't want to go deep into this because I didn't quite do so much research on these ones. So, you could have a look at them later. I can share their names with you. You can check it out. But like we always know, it's always good to go with the well-known brands. That's why I picked on those two. So I talked about screen time. So you need to find a way to balance screen time. So the child needs to have access to their device. You need to have access to the internet, but you need to balance it out. That's what all this is about. Balancing out access for your children. So one of the things you need to consider is what's the advantages of balancing screen time. It helps your child to expand learning opportunities. So with carefully selected screen time, your kids will embark on educational apps, interactive learning experiences, and online resources that will ignite their curiosity and take their learning to new frontiers. So every parent wants their child to be brilliant, to be smart, to be a very knowledgeable child. Their device and the internet obviously opens this up for them. But what we are talking about here is how do you manage it so that it does not create problems for them, rather than become something good for them. So balancing screen time can also encourage creativity. So creative apps and platforms will transport kids to a world where their imagination knows no bounds and explore new horizons. So these are some of the things that a well-balanced screen time, knowing when to do this and when not to do it, that's what some of the things it helps do. So it develops digital skills. Obviously, when they are using the internet, when they have access to the internet and some of these apps, they learn a lot of skills, good skills, which they can only learn when they have the right amount of access to those devices and in the right way. So it can also facilitate socialization. I know I talked about kids playing outside and all that, but sometimes it may not be possible. Circumstances may not carry that, just like what we witnessed in 2020 during the COVID. So children still have to socialize. So these are some of the things that devices provide for them, but it needs to actually be monitored properly. So these are some of the advantages of balancing out screen time for children. Cyberbully, we're back to cyberbullies. So what does it actually mean? Cyberbullying is when someone uses technology to harass, threaten, embarrass, or target another person. So it happens through devices like smartphones, computers, tablets, like we all know. One of the other ways that cyberbullying usually occurs is kids that play games online. It's a very, very well-known means of cyberbully for children, especially children that play games online, maybe with the Xbox, PlayStation. Sometimes when you play with people you don't even know, who may be in a different country, and some of these people don't have regard for human emotions. They just behave anyhow. So when they target your child, for example, and start exhibiting some of this cyberbullying stuff on your children, it can get to your kids. So in online gaming, a lot of things about them can be attacked by those cyberbullies. So as a parent, it's important to have open conversations with your child about what cyberbullying is, how to recognize it, and what to do if they experience it. So we're going to see some of the ways that you can know if your child is experiencing a cyberbully. So what parents and guardians should look out for that will tell them that there's a possibility of that this child is experiencing cyberbullying. So when your child all of a sudden stops to use mobile devices, that should raise a flag. When they are being secretive or protective of their digital life, it should also raise a flag. Sometimes it may not be cyberbullying, but you should actually be inquisitive to know why that is the case. When they avoid discussions about computers or phones or digital devices, that should also raise a flag. When they become nervous or jumpy when getting a message, text, or email. So for those that are using, that are able to send messages, texts, and emails, when they become nervous, when such messages come, and all that, should also make you wonder why. And then when your child suddenly becomes reluctant about going to school. So this is a child who is always very excited about going to school, and then all of a sudden, when you talk about school, the child starts to run away or starts to give you some excuses. Um, Cyberbullying may also be part of the reasons, but you need to find out. So we're going to look at what you can do in cases of cyberbullying. So how to stop cyberbullying, or the villains, like I call them. So teach the child to use their superpowers for good by respecting others online and avoiding hurtful behavior. So there's what we talk about in the internet world. So being a digital citizen, that's what everybody's encouraged to be. But you need to teach your children that it's not just about being a user of the internet, but you should be kind to people that you interact with on the internet. So you should also encourage your child to speak up if they see cyberbullying happening to them or other children like their friends, and report it to a trusted adult. So by doing so, they are helping others. They are helping others to be free from such. So help your child to defeat the cyberbully by blocking or muting anyone who is cyberbullying them, and avoid retaliating. They'll be unstoppable. Unstoppable in the sense that you've given your child that ability to just free themselves of that kind of pain. So work with your child's school to address any cyberbullying incident and ensure appropriate consequences. Together, we form an unstoppable team. So the school is always a major factor in this, because that's where the child spends a lot of time. So if you suspect any of those things that we mentioned previously, also get the school involved. Let them tell you what they think or what they know. From there, you can find out the reason or get a solution. So tell the child to be careful of what they post on social media and the friends they have. So I mentioned this earlier, posting on social media. There's a lot of information that even us as adults will give away by the posts that we make, which we may not think that there's a big deal, but when we make those posts and send it out, there's a lot of information that someone that is malicious in nature can actually pick from some of those posts. So in all this, if there's a case of cyberbully, make sure you keep records or evidence. So keep screenshots of threatening messages, pictures, and texts. This can be used as evidence if it gets to the point of going to the police or reporting it to the authorities. So ground rules. Ground rules are more like, I'm sure a lot of parents are familiar with that. They may be familiar with it in a different way, but it's more like the rules you set for your children in terms of what they should do, how they should do it, or what they should not do. So in terms of ground rules, it's important for children, and when it comes to the digital use or digital life of the children, there needs to be digital ground rules. So you need to set limits, like I said earlier, in the monitoring apps. Those apps help you to enforce some of these digital ground rules. So set limits, prepare for the battle by setting epic screen time limits with your little warriors. So together, You conquer the digital realm while maintaining a healthy balance with the real world. So those limits, like I said, balancing screen time, all that really helps. So monitor their activities. Keep a watchful eye on your adventurers. That's your children. Regularly review their browsing history um, and app usage, like Fearless Detective. So as a parent, consider yourself as the detective always, because that's what you are as a parent, always trying to look out for your children. So discuss expectations. So gather your champions around the table on the online etiquette. So basically, I talked about talking to them, telling them what and what they should not do, what how they should detect cyberbullies, how they should know this, how they should know this when they encounter it. So establish clear rules for their digital adventures, including the importance of kindness, privacy, and reporting any online dragons. That's the bad guys they encounter. So digital security. So we are now, gradually winding down on this. So we now want to look at how do you ensure that the devices they use are actually secure. This is important because if the device is not secure, it even opens the children up to more vulnerabilities, if I may use that word. So you need to also do your little to ensure that the devices are actually secure. How they access those devices, it's actually secure enough that someone else cannot be able to gain access to their devices. So one of the ways that you can do this is to make sure their devices are updated. Most of us that use smartphones or smart devices know what is called updates. So updates can make sure they are updated, because those updates are what keep those devices secure to a large extent. So some of those malicious contents may actually be prevented by updating the device software. Not just the operating system, like not just like the Android system or the iOS system, but the apps themselves that they use. When they have updates on those apps, please make sure those apps are updated, because those are the things that help to keep those apps secure. So every device needs a password of some sort. If your child's device does not have a password, it's a good idea to set a password for them. They may insist on setting it themselves, but you can set it for them so that you can also have access. Although some of those apps, still give you access even when your child sets up a password. But it's good to use strong passwords. So teach your child the importance of using strong and unique passwords for all their accounts. Encourage them to avoid simple, easy to guess passwords, and enable two-factor authentication. So two-factor authentication is becoming very common in most apps and devices and all that we use these days. So enable that for them. It's going to help. So antivirus protection. So if they have antivirus, or you can actually install antivirus on their mobile phones for them. But for their laptops and all that, try and put an antivirus. That will also help secure them. So consider location tracking features to monitor your child's device usage and location. So I mentioned it earlier. Some of those apps can help you always know where your child is at any point in time, using some of the features in the devices. So how do you evaluate apps and websites for safety? Well, there are so many ways to do that, but I had to pick on these four, practical ways to do it. So for a lot of us parents, we're already familiar with installing apps and all that, but are you familiar with the fact that those apps actually have certain permissions that if you do not know that they have them, they can have more access than they should have on the device. So they can have access to information that they should not have. So you need to scrutinize the permissions of some of those apps that your children use, even before downloading them. You know, on Google Play Store, for example, you can find out the permissions that an app can have even before you download it. So when downloading apps for your kids, carefully review the permissions required. So the apps that ask for access to things like contacts, locations, and cameras should be raised as a red flag unless it's absolutely necessary. So for example, if you want to install Google Family Link, for example, obviously you have to enable location, you know. But when they start asking you for contacts and access to camera, those things may not really be necessary for the normal usage of the app. So stick to reputable apps from trusted developers to ensure your child's data and privacy are safe. So one quick way to know trusted apps is the Play Store actually endorses those apps. I think they call it Play Protect or something like that. So look out for some of those things when you're installing those apps. Then secondly, you can check the app reviews. So every app has a review under it, even before you download it. Read the reviews, look at what people have experienced in the app, you know, to get a sense of how the app is being used. So look for concerning behavior reports of inappropriate content. So pay attention to developers' responsiveness and all that. So these are some of the things that can help you decide whether you want to use those apps or not. So, you know, vet websites thoroughly. So for children that need to have access to websites, before allowing your child to browse the website, take a few minutes to explore it yourself. You know, check for inappropriate ads, user-generated content, and any other questionable elements, you know. So sometimes this may not always be possible because you don't always know the apps the websites your child accesses. But with some of those apps, you can restrict the websites. But one thing I can say here is most of these websites, you know, they have some form of ad or the other. It's just how it is. There's really not much you can do. But you can minimize some of these things by using some of those apps. And if you have a good antivirus, a good antivirus can limit this inappropriate ads. It can actually prevent ads entirely. You know, some antivirus softwares can even make sure that some of these videos that pop up randomly, they will just mute the video for you. You don't need to watch them. But if you really need to watch them, you can still unmute and watch the video. So these are ways they used to reduce these apps. They try to use the antiviruses. They try to use it to minimize some of these unwanted contents that can get to the wrong person, like your children. So number 4, finally, use parental controls. So parental controls, you find them in some of those monitoring apps I mentioned. So leverage on parental control features on your devices and the internet browser to filter out inappropriate content and limit access to certain apps and websites. So this gives you an extra layer of protection for your child online activity. So parental control features, you have it in websites, you have it in some of those apps, and you also have it in the monitoring apps I talked about. So it's good to explore. You know, after this, you can take some time. I will share some guides on how you can install the apps, how you can use them, explore their features, and all that. I'll share that as well. So we are basically rounding up. So what are the takeaways that we have? You know, what is the conclusion and some of the takeaways? As a parent, you need to stay informed. So continuously educate yourself and your family about evolving online landscape, emerging threats to children's safety. So some of the things we talked about are some of those evolving threats, evolving landscape and the emerging threats. They keep coming out as the days go by. They come out in different ways and in different forms. So as a parent, you need to constantly educate yourself and your family about the evolving threats. Then you need to encourage open communication with your children about their digital life, about what is obtainable in this big online life, digital life that unfortunately is not going anywhere. We have to live with it. So maintain an open and honest dialogue with your children about their online activities, concerns, and experiences. So utilize available tools. Um, what that basically means, you need to leverage on various parental controls and some of these features I talked about. So everything that I pointed out here boils down to the fact that you need to educate yourself. You need to encourage or foster open communication. You need to utilize some of these tools that I mentioned. Feel free to research on more, but the ones I talked about here are the most common, the most reliable, that we know on the internet. So these are some of the resources that I would like you all to check out. This tells you how to set up all these tools I mentioned and some additional things that you need to know. So maybe I'll just copy this and post in the chat so that people can explore for themselves. Let me do that now. So this is for Apple screen time. Okay, I'm going to post them one after the other because it's very important for you to have all these links as well. It's quite important so that in your own time you can actually explore, learn more about them. So this is for Google Family Link. Okay. Then some of the other ones, I'm thinking what's the best way to do all this now. Well, before I continue, I would like to hear from those that are joining us. I can see Ifoma joined us. Nana is also here. Ifoma, how are you doing? Good evening. Hello, Ifoma, are you there?
Hello, good evening.
Good evening, Ifoma. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Thank you, Ike. I'm really